People told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA.
Nothing matters but winning.
Here we are for episode 30 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host, Gabriel Chelio.
Along with Adam Kasucci.
And today we are going to be doing another origin story episode. We're moving on to the next batch of forwards. We did 3 last week's, and now we're working on the individual players. So today we mentioned in the recap video, but we're going to be doing Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. So Rondae was born on January 3rd, 1995. He is currently 25 years old in Chester, Pennsylvania. He is the son of Rondae Hollis, a single mother who worked 2 jobs as a dietary supervisor and bartender. Their father was frequently absent and spent some time in jail, and Rondae began strengthening his basketball game when he was around 12 years old. This is when he started to focus on basketball, and he tried to switch up his life a little bit and, not think about his father or, the crimes he committed. He wanted to create his own identity. So at a young age, took on a strong interest in defense and acknowledged that he scored only because he was taller than his peers. He attended Chester High School, where he began an outstanding basketball career under head coach Larry Yarbrough. The small forward became the first player to ever be named Delaware County Player of the Year for multiple seasons. He was also a key piece in Chester's first ever undefeated season. The Clippers finished 91-5 in his last years at the school and won 2 state titles. In his senior year, he lost in the state title game to Lower Merion. He finished his career with more than 1,000 points and a school record 780 rebounds. Hollis-Jefferson participated in the 2013 McDonald's All-American game against future Arizona teammate Aaron Gordon, who we know in the NBA today, obviously a huge star for Orlando Magic. Following the event, he took part in the Jordan Brand Classic with some of the most highly recruited high school stars in the nation, such as Julius Randle. At the conclusion of Hollis-Jefferson's years with the Clippers, he was tabbed the 6th best small forward of his class by 247sports.com and the 5th best by rivals.com. He eventually decided to attend University of Arizona and represent that school through their successful basketball program over other possibilities, such as he could have went to Florida, Syracuse, but he decided to go with Arizona. In his freshman season with Arizona, Hollis-Jefferson became known as a fierce scorer, rebounder, and shot blocker, even though he was relatively small in size. The start of this season was marked with 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists against Cal Poly off the bench. He posted his first double-double in a game against Oregon. And he also improved his free throw shooting as his freshman year progressed. Throughout the season, Hollis-Jefferson mainly functioned as the team's 6th man, but eventually became a starter after Brandon Ashley was lost for the season with a foot injury in the Wildcats' 60-58 upset loss to California on February 1st. Hollis-Jefferson ended up starting 6 of 38 games played due to the roster that was dominated by the likes of Aaron Gordon, but still got his name on the Pac-12 All-Freshman team. Later on in his freshman year, Hollis-Jefferson averaged 9.1 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 1.4 assists per game by the end. It's a lot different than just waking up, going to school, and playing basketball for Chester, is what's a quote from Hollis-Jefferson in his freshman year. In the beginning of the season, I was lost, but it's not about who's starting, it's about who finishes. It stuck with me for about a month or so, playing behind people. I went along with it and kept playing. I need to make people respect my shot. I know I can shoot it. I have to stay in attack mode.
As a sophomore, Hollis-Jefferson increased his averages to 11.3 points and 6.9 rebounds per game. He improved in his leadership and offense. As a sophomore, he was voted first team All-Pac-12 and was named to the Pac-12 All-Defensive Team. He helped lead the Wildcats to 2 consecutive Elite 8 appearances in the NCAA tournament, losing to Wisconsin on both occasions. On April 7th, 2015, Hollis-Jefferson declared for the 2015 NBA draft, foregoing his final 2 years of college eligibility. I don't know if I enjoyed coaching a player more than I've enjoyed coaching Rondae, which was his coach, Sean Miller. June 25th, 2015, Hollis-Jefferson was selected by the Portland Trailblazers with the 23rd overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft. His draft rights, along with Steve Blake, were subsequently traded to the Brooklyn Nets for Mason Plumlee and the draft rights to the 41st overall pick, Pat Connaughton. July 6, 2015, he signed his rookie scale contract with the Nets. He made his debut for the Nets in their season opener, October 28, 2015, recording 8 points and 5 rebounds off the bench in a 115-100 loss to the Chicago Bulls. November 20th, he had a season-best game with 13 points and 11 rebounds as a starter in a loss to the Boston Celtics. December 7th, he was diagnosed with a non-displaced fracture of the posterior talus in his right ankle, an injury requiring surgery, and 8 to 10 weeks of rehabilitation. He returned to action in late March. November 12th, 2016, Hollis-Jefferson scored a career-high 20 points and tied a career-high with 13 rebounds in a 122-104 win over the Phoenix Suns. December 14th, 2017, Hollis-Jefferson scored a career-high 25 points on 10 for 16 shooting in a 111-104 loss to the New York Knicks. He strained his right groin during a 116-91 loss to the Milwaukee Bucks. January 26th, returned to action. And February 26th against the Chicago Bulls after missing the Nets' previous 11 games. Hollis-Jefferson missed the first 3 games of the 2018-19 season with a hip injury and the birth of his first child. November 28, 2018, in a 101-91 loss to the Utah Jazz, Hollis-Jefferson had 14 points and a season-high 11 rebounds for his first double-double. On March 19th, 2019, he made a layup with 0.8 of a second remaining to lift the Nets to a 123-121 win over the Sacramento Kings. June 17, the Nets opted not to make Hollis-Jefferson a qualifying offer, making him an unrestricted free agent. Nearing a month later, the Toronto Raptors had superstar Kawhi Leonard and veteran Danny Green leave due to free agency. The Raptors were looking to strengthen their defensive stoppers. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson was then signed on July 7, 2019 to a 1-year deal worth $2.5 million. Raptors were hoping he'd be a guy who can help them defensively, being very versatile, who can guard the perimeter as well as the interior. There were always questions on his offensive game and what he can provide in Nick Nurse's offensive system, knowing that he wouldn't be able to shoot the 3 at a high clip or even shoot the ball in general. Nurse wanted to see how teams played him on offense. Would they sit back and disrespect his shooting abilities, or would they press up enough for a contest? To start the season, there were a lot of injuries that the Raptors had to deal with, which made RHJ's minutes elevate to about 20 to 24 minutes a night. He showed great work ethic as well as hustle, which gave him the name Hustle Man Chap. He would find a way to score with either putbacks or driving in the paint, scoring tough finishes at the rim. Very crafty player as well. November to February, around that area was his best playing period with the Raptors, having 15 games in double-digit scoring and rebounding the ball at a high rate, and also getting tons of steals and blocks with excellent defensive performances. RHJ wasn't the same player after the hiatus, only having 2 double-digit scoring games in the seeding games, and wasn't having the same impact as he was before the stoppage of the games. In the playoffs, we haven't seen much doing for RHJ. He appeared in 3 games in the first round of the playoffs versus the Nets, only playing a total of 29 minutes in the series, and was primarily benched for not being able to shoot the basketball and stretch the floor. In round 2 versus the Celtics, RSJ was actually benched, getting only a total of 8 minutes in the 7-game series and scoring only 1 basket. We wouldn't have known if RHJ could have made a difference in this series, but he for sure would have brought good perimeter defense on Boston's guards, including Kemba, Smart, and Brown.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he could have been, very impactful on the defensive end. What he could have done on offense, it would be a different story. But I feel like, based off of how the series went and how tough it was and how we were struggling really just shooting in general, I feel like someone like him could have made an advantage who makes his buckets off of hustle alone, getting inside, working hard. Because we were shooting, pretty poorly almost the first couple of games. There was a lot of off nights like that. I think it wouldn't have been bad to put him in with some of the other guys that are hungry off the bench and maybe could have sparked some type of run just off of hustle alone. But, Rondae overall, I think that he's got a lot of room to grow. He's still only 25 years old, right? Only been in the league for a couple years now, 5 years now. And he still has to develop. I think his biggest thing is the jumper. Like we said, it can be a huge disadvantage not having it. I think teams can like disrespect you, leave you open a lot of the times, and when you're that open, you want to shoot it. It's the right play to shoot that open shot when you're kicked out and you're wide open. But if he can't make it, it's really troublesome to how do you create an offense like that unless you're on the inside a lot more, which is also interesting because he's like a small forward or an undersized power. It shuts down some of that floor spacing and makes things kind of awkward for the big men if they cannot shoot as well. Luckily, Ibaka is willing to stretch the floor. Mark has shied away from it a little bit, but Boucher would also be willing to stretch. So it's a possibility to get him involved, but it becomes much more difficult. I think you can agree.
Yeah, for sure. I would have wanted to seen RHJ on Tatum during this series. I felt like he would have. I think Norm is a great defender. I just think Tatum is a very crafty player, and when he gets into that post area, he can do the fade. He could spin off and score. He can get to the rack. He can do plenty of things with his offensive game, and I would have liked to see RHJ on him because Powell, obviously being a little bit smaller than him, he wasn't the best in the interior defense versus Tatum. So I would have liked to see RHJ come off the bench a bit more and Nurse kind of trust in him.
Yeah, for sure. I think that even just having a fresh set of legs, this series is a long one, going all 7 games. There was multiple games where our starters played 40-plus minutes. Do you think double OT, we played 50-plus minutes? So a lot of the guys were really tired, and I feel like once in a while it would have been good to put someone like RHJ on to simply just hustle up Tatum or Brown, whoever he's guarding, and just work his butt off on defense and make that his one priority to stop one of those guys who could have been hot at the time, to slow them down. So I feel like that's where his role could have fit really nicely. It's a shame, like you said, that we didn't get to see it happen, if he would have made a difference or not, because Nick Nurse was very set in stone on his starters, and usually that's how playoff basketball is, cutting that roster down to, we basically use 7 players. Sometimes we went 8, but like it was very on and off, whether it be Matt Thomas or TD. So, playoff basketball is usually like that. I just feel like with our team and the way we played this season overall, we utilize that depth and that full rotation, and that could have been costly for us. That might have made the difference.
Yeah, for sure. I think Rondae playing in the series would have been an impact player. Always brings the energy, always brings positive vibes on the court. But yeah, I think Brad Stevens is a smart coach, the coach of the Celtics, and he would have probably left them open. And double teaming everyone who comes in the paint and kind of leaving Hollis-Jefferson on the perimeter. So it would have been interesting to see him play, but it's too bad, and it's a bit too late now, obviously, as we're eliminated. So
yeah, so like you said, offense would have been the main problem for that, but defense is where we could have utilized him. Comparing Rondae to like the average small forward in the league, the problem is that he tends to fall short of every category, obviously based off of like average minutes. Obviously less, but points, department, assists, free throw, all the shooting percentages, he's always slightly below average. Where he does excel a little bit are obviously the defensive end, the rebounds, the steals, the blocks. So it's hard to utilize a player like that when he's slightly below average. And it also stems from, I noticed that he tends to produce more for the team when he puts up more minutes. You saw we give him a lot of minutes, you said, around those couple of months where he was getting 20, 25 minutes. And that's when he was putting up decent numbers. He was playing solid. I feel like that he's one of those rhythm guys that the more minutes he gets, the better he plays. Because if you look at his last 5 years in the league, his best year was year 3, 2017-2018 season. And it was the time where he got the most amount of minutes by a long shot. Compared to this season, it's an extra 10 minutes. So in that extra 10 minutes of play, he, although taking more shots, obviously getting more points, more assists, more rebounds, which is obviously makes sense because you're on the court longer. He also got his field goal percentage up, his 3-point percentage up, effective field goal up, his 2-point percentage up, his free throw. So he even shot better from all these different places, along with putting up more rebounds, more assists, more points just from the more time. So I feel like he's one of those guys that you give him more minutes, you give him more games, more starts, he produces more for you. I guess he has to get into the rhythm of things. And I guess you could say we saw that too when he first started for us, like that beginning of the year, the first time we saw him. Yeah. He wasn't anything crazy, but over time there was a couple of great games where we saw a lot of effort and a lot of great plays from him on both ends of the floor and just hustling for his baskets. So He's definitely like a player that is stamped as like a dog in the league, and like that's what he's known for. And it's hard though for teams like looking for that. Where does that fit for your team? It's nice to have someone like that, but at the same time, if it costs you too much, let's say next season he wants more money, what do you do with that moving forward? Because obviously he is a liability on offense because of the shooting.
Yeah, I think game reps are the best medicine to fixing a jumper and in-game shots with a defender on you. There's nothing better than that to help your jumper. But yeah, I think he has to fix his mechanics. I think just his feet, his arms. I think his elbow is pushed out too much. Yeah, and I think he's just got to rework that jumper. And a lot of it is also confidence. He hasn't shot any like corner threes. He maybe shot like under 5 threes all year, so he hasn't been shooting. So with that being said, I think his confidence has to grow in shooting, and if that grows, I feel like he can and work on his mechanics. I feel like he could finally be an average shooter in the NBA. Gabe, I want to ask you a question on if you're Masai right now and RHJ's contract is running out. What would you do with him? Seeing where he is in the team and where we finished, obviously getting eliminated in the second round. Are we looking to keep this guy around as a rotational player? Is he moving up? Is he being put in a trade package? What's happening with him?
Before I get to that, I just wanted to say about the last thing. You're right about that. The mechanics of the jumper are just extremely off, and I think it's also tough because he's left-handed. Most players are right-handed, and becoming left-handed is difficult. As you know, right hand is usually your dominant hand, so people contesting that, it's a lot easier to stop someone like him. And not to mention, like you said, the 3-pointers. He only made 3 3-pointers this year, attempted 23 of them, so 13% from 3, very tough. And that's going to be effective towards other teams that want to take him. If we try putting him in a trade package, they know, okay, this guy can't shoot the 3 ball at all. He's not even willing to take them, and he doesn't shoot them at a high percentage. The jumper is just not there. So do we need him? So he's been in the league long enough that I think he does have some type of value for teams. Depends on what he wants next year is how it determines what we do with him.
Yeah.
Because if he obviously wants to get a decent amount of money, like 5 to 10 million, I feel like he's not worth it because we haven't really, we used him in the regular season, but let's look at the playoff the bubble and like the playoff stretch. We never really went to him. We went to other guys before him, Matt Thomas, TD, Boucher, and we won and played our games without even like thinking of his effect, let's say. Like I watch the games, I see Matt Thomas, TD come in, and we win games, we lose games. We did good during the regular season bubble. Playoffs, obviously, we fell short now, but he almost was like not a part of like the thought process in that time frame. So I think that like this team can do fine without him. He's not like an integral part of the team, but during the season, he did have some, great moments, and he was beneficial towards our team. So if he would come for a minimum contract or something along the lines of that, I would be okay with keeping him. If he, maybe works on his jumper and just helps us out in other places, he's always, it's always good to have some guy that's a lockdown, or, you can rely on him on defense if we need some stops, but at the same time, not too beneficial moving forward in the offensive end.
For sure. Did you see anything, Gabe, with, I know Nick Nurse has his favorites. He likes shooters. He likes players who can really do everything, shoot the ball, drive, play defense. And I felt that Rondae was he didn't really favor Rondae. I mean, the system Nurse plays doesn't fit Rondae's play style. And I think that's why I think Rondae was a bit upset also. He felt like he's putting an effort and he's putting his all into these games, but just his ability not to be able to shoot is costing him minutes. And I think that was for sure the fact.
Yeah. I definitely can see why that would be a problem for the team. I think that you're right. I think there might have been something on Nurse's end where he knows that Rondae doesn't really fit into this role, and he most likely never will under Nurse's system. And it's kind of like it's not what Nurse wants. He doesn't want someone like Rondae in that position, so it becomes like useless for him. I think that he did do decent in games, but I guess what Nurse wants to see from our team, he doesn't involve that. Maybe with someone like Dwayne Casey, a more defensive-oriented coach, someone that prioritizes that, would have loved someone like Rondae on their team. But I guess we'll see what happens. If Rondae is truly upset with those minutes and his role in the team, he could definitely leave. He is on free agent this offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here, because right now he's getting paid $2.5 million. He's been in the league long enough. I don't know how much he thinks he deserves, but he's definitely going to test the market, and because he might not be favoring our team, because we obviously didn't play him as much as he probably wanted. Especially in this playoff and bubble run. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, and rookies were playing over him, so I'm sure he felt disrespected there.
Yeah, but the rookies, they did play well in the minutes they were given. Matt Thomas, even in the playoffs, he shot quite well. Terrence Davis, we know all season, has been very exciting to watch, although he fell off a little bit in the bubble. But, just like Rondae, TD did that, Siakam did that. Mark's been off the whole season, but a lot of guys did, struggle in the bubble. So I guess it's not a total surprise. Okay, Adam, now I'm just going to throw it back on you here. What do you think is going to happen moving forward? And I want to know, do you like his play style? I know, obviously you believe every player should have a jumper in the league. Like, you're playing basketball for a living, you should be able to shoot the basketball. But do you think that his hard work and his, his other abilities, like the defense and his work ethic, do you think it makes up for it?
I think it does. I mean, he's an elite defender. I can say that, and I don't know why Nurse didn't play him more, especially in the Celtics series. We were struggling on defense, and OG Norm didn't have the answers. And he's an elite rebounder. He works as hard as anyone when he's on the floor. So he is elite in those other categories, which makes him for sure playable, but again, the shooting it's a major negative that costs him. I think if he just makes it an average, even under average, shot, or he's just got to work on that jumper, man. It's all there is to it.
All right, so this one I think is pretty much wrapped up here. It was a relatively short one, but once again, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, not someone that it's only been here for 1 year. We haven't seen the most out of him. He hasn't done too much in terms of team-wise, especially late in the bubble and playoffs, which we are, watching now. The only thing we're really catching up on. Not much to talk about him from here, but we did try to cover what we could about his play style and his future with this team. Going to his story, I think that it's also, based off of hard work. He knew from a young age that his special abilities were defense and, just being a hustle player. And I think that he's done a good job of using that to get to where he is today. And hopefully he can develop the jumper, test free agency, and maybe get, his money's worth. It'd be good for him if he got more money, obviously, take care of his family and stuff. But if he returns in a lower contract, it'd be great to see him back if he's going to work as hard as he did during the regular season.
For sure.
Okay, so that's it. Hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. We have the visuals for this podcast. But if you want audio only, we also have Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and more. Check us out on Instagram at Rapzville for NBA news, content, weekly posts, daily posts, and box scores as well for the games. And that's us signing out. Peace.